Hello and welcome. Today I'd like to take you on a journey into the big wild west of communicating emotions. By the end of this presentation, you will have new knowledge about communication and you will leave with a very practical 4-step technique that you can practice with your family, your friends, colleagues, and beyond. My name is Dominique Jacobs. I'm a mom of 5 with only one earthly daughter. I'm also a licensed and certified HNLP life-changing coach and mind expert, pregnancy loss expert therapist, and creatrix transformologist. I help moms and families who have suffered pregnancy loss to create the space to find peace of mind in connection with their loss, themselves, and their environment. After turning the belief system inside out and taking the extra charge of emotions, these moms are able to go forward consciously and experience joy in life again. Communication is a fundamental building block of everyday life, and it exists in many ways and on many levels. I will be talking about communication in relation to emotions. I will start off with information on how our system and our filters in communication work, then go into nonviolent communication and the practical tool, and round off with some more specified insights in how to handle communication after pregnancy loss. Who is leading our vessel? As the captain at the wheel. When the sea is calm, everything is under control, and we don't even consider or question it. But what happens when we're in rough seas? Rumi, the famous poet, stated, "Heart is a sea, language is the shore. Whatever is in the sea will hit the shore, and thus also hits the vessel." You might know already that everyday action or behavior is a result of the emotion that we connect to a thought and experience. Rumi's sentence, therefore, means that whatever we feel affects our whole being and our acting, and will bump into our vocabulary. I'm sure you realize that the human experience is much more expansive than our vocabulary is. This picture is an example of how important communication is. Now, as you can see, the man is under a lot of pressure of the rock, which the woman doesn't see, and the woman is under a lot of pressure from the snake bites and in pain and not to fall, which the man doesn't see the snake. Now, the woman thinks, I'm going to fall and I can't climb because I'm in pain from the snake biting. Why can't you use a little more strength and pull me up? And the man thinks, I'm under so much pressure, yet I'm still pulling you as much as I can. Why don't you try to climb a little harder? The morale here is, first of all, you never know the whole story. And you can't always see nor understand the pressure or the pain someone is in. Whether it's with work, family, feelings, or friends, we should try to communicate more clearly. Even though we are emotional beings, expressing our emotion is not always that easy, often because we didn't learn how to, or because dealing with that emotion can be confronting and painful. Very often we don't even seem to have words to describe the emotion or the feeling, or even understanding our own emotions can be challenging. Just know that you can't see the whole picture from inside the frame. Realize that emotions are neither good nor bad. They are merely delivering messages with a purpose. It all starts with self-awareness, really. It is the connection to ourselves that allows us to connect to others. And this being said, connecting to other people doesn't mean that we can really recognize their emotions, because we all look through our own filters. And talking about those filters, it is important to realize that our mind can really play tricks on us. We all have at least 5 senses, and this is the way your nervous system absorbs all the information. You get visual information through your eyes, auditory information through your ears, kinesthetic information through touch, and internal feelings, and olfactory information through your nose, and as a last one, gustatory information through your taste. Now, a human being has about 50 to 80,000 thoughts per day, and we make about 35,000 decisions per day. Sounds exhausting, doesn't it? The human brain can process about 11 million bits of information per second. Imagine how much information that is. Yet, and luckily, the conscious mind, the part that we are aware of, can only process about 50 bits per second. So what happens is that you unconsciously filter all the information that comes in. Our subconscious controls about 97% of everything you do, everything you think, feel, and our conscious mind controls only about 3% of our lives. Those filters, what do? They delete, leaves out information. For example, I'm sure you're not aware about your breathing 24/7. At least that is until now that I said it and made it conscious. Second of all, the filters distort information. They make something else out of it. They make it bigger or smaller. They try to find recognition in previous memories. Third of all, it generalizes. And this is how we learn. For example, we generalize the way we open a door so that we do not have to think at every door, but just open it until you bump into that door that opens the other way around. So your filters generalize to just make things easier. After the filtering, we make an internal representation, of which is only a fraction. Everybody's brain does this based on attitudes, memories, values, and beliefs. So no wonder everybody has their own interpretation of things. Now, the reality is that there is no way we can be certain what others are experiencing internally, how they see the world, and what meaning they give to what they perceive, let alone how they decide to react to events. But often we assume the opposite, and that can get us into trouble. Now, that our filtering system affects our perception is clear, and perception is the strongest mental muscle. It is normal not to be aware about many filters you have, and it is a habit to look through them. You have certain beliefs because of experiences in the past, and during your upbringing, many beliefs were installed deep down in the reservoir of your subconscious. Beliefs are like repeated thoughts, and what you were taught as well that things are. They are like white noise playing in the background. You don't even notice, you don't even realize what you think and what you believe very often. And the thing is that you will look for and find evidence to support these beliefs, to prove to yourself that these things that you think and you believe are actually true. Do you know the expression, I'll believe it when I'll see it? Well, most often you only see what you already believe. Remember how many thoughts per day a person has? Well, today you are probably repeating 90% of yesterday's thoughts. You create in your own present time what you believe. Therefore, it is extremely important to become aware of your thoughts and of your words, to question your thoughts and your beliefs, to grow consciousness and to turn around or redirect your belief system, to work on those beliefs that don't serve you anymore today. Even though Robert Plutchik breaks about 34,000 emotions down to only 8 basic ones, if I saw you tearing up and sobbing, for example, there are countless emotions that might be presenting themselves. And so I would be making a ton of assumptions based on my own experiences and emotions, which means I would be shoving your experience through my lenses. The clue of the story is that I would not be connecting with you at that moment. Know that the idea of walking in someone else's shoes and trying to understand what they are feeling and going through has no merit. What is much more difficult is to establish the meaningful connection where you can actively listen to the person and their story, to believe them for what they say, to not have an opinion about it, and to be fully present in the moment. The challenge there is not to let your own thoughts, your own beliefs, past experiences, and emotions take the lead. Being present in compassion does not mean pitying or feeling sorry for the other person. There is absolutely no benefit in that for either. Being present and thus fully connecting means as well letting go of any and all control. You don't need to take over from the other person. You don't need to solve anything for the other person. Now, in order to be able to fully connect with other people, it is very obvious that we need to establish that connection within ourselves. In order to be aware, not to project our own issues on the other or to reside into comparison. Let's get into nonviolent communication. You might have heard of this way of interacting and communicating with ourselves and others with compassion. The aim of nonviolent communication is not to change the other person's behavior or to get our way, but to build relationships based on equality, honesty, and empathy, ultimately meeting the needs of all parties. It is all about empathetic listening and honest expressing. It teaches us to understand and to express our feelings and to hear our own deeper needs and those of others. Now, nonviolent communication revolves around two fundamental questions. First, what are you feeling? And second, what would make your life more wonderful? And not many of us have learned to acknowledge our own feelings. What we very easily and often unintentionally do in our communication is focus on analyzing, put blame, and make judgments. For example, traffic is always terrible. Or, this horrible rain ruined my day. These examples sound logical, but they also express an interpretation of a situation. They express how you feel about the situation. Judgments, criticism, and interpretations of others are all strange expressions of our own needs. And when we use them, we imply the person in front of us is behaving wrongly, when in fact, all we know is that the person isn't acting according to our beliefs and values. If someone says, "You never listen to me," it is them telling you that their need to be heard is not being met. And because the statement is made as a judgment, the recipient is likely to hear criticism, which often leads to self-defense and counter-attacking instead of understanding. The more direct we can connect our feelings and our needs, the easier it is for others to respond with compassion. So instead of focusing on what is wrong with others, focus on your own needs. Nonviolent communication also teaches us that we cannot be responsible for each other's feelings, but we can be responsible for how we choose to react. Let me give you the 4 elements of nonviolent communication. The first element is observation, which is perception, and purely that, without judgment. For the second element, expressing our feelings, we require vocabulary, words that allow us to clearly identify and name specific emotions. This helps us connect more easily with each other. Being able to make ourselves vulnerable even contributes to solving conflicts. It is important to distinguish between words that reflect real feelings and words or statements that describe thoughts, judgments, and interpretations. The third element of nonviolent communication is recognizing the needs behind our feelings. And I personally think this is really one of the key elements. Now, what others say and do can be the trigger, but never the cause of our own feelings. When someone expresses negativity, there are 4 ways in which we can respond, which is either blame ourselves, blaming the other person, making us aware of our own feelings and needs, or making us aware of the feelings and needs behind the negative message. The fourth element of nonviolent communication is requesting concrete, clear action without it being a demand. This fourth element concerns the question of what we want to request from each other in order to create a win-win situation. Here it is important to avoid vague, abstract, or unclear wording and to use positive action, positive language by clearly stating what we would like instead of what we wouldn't like. Now, the clearer we are in what we want to hear back when we speak, the more likely we are to get it. Now, to bring this theory back to a very practical tool and exercise, I'll give you a formula to play with and to try out on absolutely everybody, and it goes like this. You start your sentence with I feel, where you express your own emotion. Then you continue with when you, where you describe what you see in the behavior of the other person. You continue, and this one is optional, with because, where you can give the consequence or more of an explanation. Once again, this is an optional one. And you finalize the sentence with I would like, where you express your request, your goal, your expectation. Now, the success in this formula, and at the same time the pitfall of this formula, is the no blame strategy. So, I encourage you to start practicing in a very playful way with very banal subjects in order to get the hang of it and handle more serious matters. Practice consciously as well. For example, you could have a practice round during family dinner time. Listen to one another with compassion and no judgment, and help each other through this formula. And yes, you can do this with kids as well. Let me give you an example of the formula in practice. For example, I feel disrespected. That's my feeling. When you look away while I'm talking to you, the action I see. I would like us to look at one another when talking. Another example. I feel disrespected and angry when you arrive late because it disrupts my planning. I would like you to be on time for our meetings. Your emotions affect your communication, and communication can trigger certain emotions. I like comparing emotions to clouds. There are small fluffy white clouds, there are heavy dark ones, rainy, stormy, thunder and lightning. They can pass by fast when there's a strong wind, or they might float really slowly when there's only a gentle breeze. An emotion is energy in motion. It wants to be seen, heard, and felt, and then to be allowed the space to move on. An emotion brings you certain information, so don't try to hang on to it or to dwell in it. It needs to move. Take the message, take the information it brings, and let it move on. Don't try to suppress the emotion either, because it will insist. Did you know that an emotion really lasts only about 6 seconds? All feelings and emotions are okay, and they're all welcome. Embrace them and give them space. Clouds always come and go. Emotions are like our GPS. They show us the way. Are you willing to see the way? In your communication, you can take different roles or positions. When you feel things happen to you, because of something or someone outside of you, you're in the position of a victim. You easily blame and are unable to see choices or opportunities. Now, you can recognize this position by words or thoughts like, oh, poor me, why me, I'm not good enough. And this position is really problem-oriented. It's a negative, vicious cycle, and you might feel stuck or out of control. When you're in the victim position, the focus is only on what is not there, what is lacking or missing, and you feel powerless and have many excuses. The opposite position is where you step into responsibility. In this position, you can see that it happens. It is what it is. There's no guilt, there's no judgment. You can make your own choices and see possibilities. You have the confidence that it will be all right. And this is a position where you take your own part of the responsibility and let go of the other part, no matter what the other person does with their part of the responsibility. It is a solution-oriented position, and you are open to learn from the situation. You see opportunities and you take ownership. Your focus is on what is. Now, there's no right or wrong position here. Let me be clear about that. What I want you to see is that you do have a choice. And stepping into responsibility means that you hold yourself responsible and accountable for everything you think, do, or say. At that point, you no longer blame anything or anybody, including yourself. And you stop making excuses like, oh, I'm too old, or oh, I'm too young, or it's too late. Now, by looking at yourself without judgment, of course, you learn about yourself. Be the curious investigator. Language and the words you use are important. The ones you use to yourself and to others. There are easy small changes in the wording that you use that can impact your mindset immensely in a positive way. See the 4 examples on the slide. I can't. Here you close the door completely and it becomes a belief. And when you can't, you can't. That's it. Up, close door. Or it's difficult. You focus on the negative. Or I should, which is an invitation for procrastination and excuses. Or when you start a sentence with you are, that's pointing a finger, it's putting blame on, even unintentionally, of course. Instead of saying I can't, say I can't yet. This one opens the door just by adding that little word. Very important to use with your children as well. When they say I can't, indeed, you can't yet. It means they're still learning. You're still learning. There is opening. There are possibilities to come on your way. Instead of difficult, say it's not easy. Because indeed, it might not be easy. It might be difficult. When you put the focus on difficult, you put the focus on the negative thing. If you say not easy, know that your subconscious does not hear the word not. So you're focusing, your subconscious is focusing on easy, which means it will become more easy. Again, an opening for possibilities. Instead of saying I should, which is procrastination and excuses, say I can. It even gives you a boost saying it. And of course, as we saw in the 4-step technique as well, instead of saying you are, which is blame, say I feel, and start with your own emotion that you are experiencing, because in this way there is no blame involved. Now, with these little changes, you make an opening for possibilities and choices. You shift your focus. The one person you communicate the most with is you, yourself. So pay attention to the words you use, the position you put yourself into, the thoughts you have, and which beliefs play a big role in your life, which ones are helping, and moreover, which ones are keeping you stuck. Allow yourself the space and the opportunity to become aware and practice your communication skills. Now, since the loss you've experienced, you've become a different person. And in this new life you didn't wish for, also communication is a whole different challenge. You might feel disconnected from the world, from life, from yourself, from your family, your friends, your co-workers, etc. As you know, the grieving process is very personal. And I'd like to give you one major tip, is find out now what you really want, what you really need, and communicate it. Ask for help. People have certainly asked you what they can do for you, and they honestly have no idea what they can do for you. So you can say yes to them and tell them what you can use their help with. Make it concrete, make it clear, tangible, and manageable without explaining too much. Give those who are willing to help you also the opportunity to contribute within their possibilities and within your limits. You may feel that you're going through pregnancy loss alone, and it is true that no one can take away your pain. So surround yourself with a handful of people and let them help you take the time you need and make everything else a little easier for you. They could cook you a meal, for example. They could come and clean your house, take your children to school and hobbies, walk the dog, and also have that special person sit with you to just listen to you without trying to solve anything, without trying to make things better, but to be fully present in compassion. Also here, you might find yourself on a guilt trip, in a downward spiral of victimization. You experiencing pregnancy loss has nothing to do with responsibility. And whatever feelings come up, feel them for a moment. And remember the 6-second rule. Might not be easy to snap out of them, and it might keep you stuck in victimization. Do know that there's another side. Do know that you have the choice, when you are ready, to step into ownership, to take responsibility. And that means taking responsibility for your grieving process and also for your life. There is no place for guilt. Do not let that or the emotions passing by lock you up in victimhood. You have choices of what to do with each moment. And I know it's all easier said than done. I know. I've been there several times. Know that you don't have to do and go through it all alone. If you'd like to connect with me on social media, you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn as well, or have a look at my website. I'd love to connect with you on social media or personally. So feel free to follow me. And if you'd like to have a personal chat, you can book that through Calendly. My link is on the bottom of the slide. I help women who have experienced pregnancy loss to create the space to move forward in deep connection with their loss, with themselves, and with their environment. In an inside-out process, the emotional charges and deeply rooted beliefs are solved at an epigenetic and cellular level, so that you can make an enormous shift and grow consciousness, find peace of mind, enjoyment, and renew zest for life. I'd like to thank you for being here, and also I want to give a big shout out to KG, the founder of Mayah's Legacy, and the beautiful platform she built here to guide and help you. Warm greetings from the heart, and until our next meet. Bye-bye.